Cheers.
This podcast is sponsored by Release Winery. Every wine tells a story. Each growing season, it's our goal to create an artisan Napa Valley wine of exceptional quality. Join us as the story of this ultra-limited wine continues. Learn more at releasewinery.com.
The building was built in 2001. But I gotta give Shannon credit for designing what we have interior-wise in here. But the tasting room was built in 2001. But going back even further, the winery was started in 1994, and the family's owned the vineyard here since 1932. So it took us a while to get into winemaking. We grew grapes for a long time, and it took us a while to figure that out. So we started making wine about 25 years ago.
Rich's grandparents really got the ball rolling in 1932, and the property here was farming was a way of life for them. So from 1932 until they had Rich's dad, and he was old enough to get involved in the vineyard, and all these years later, 1932 all the way until 1994, it was strictly a farming operation, and all the grapes were sold.
There's fewer and fewer of us that have been around as long as we have, although there's several that have been around a little bit longer than we have, but more and more, the multi-generational wineries and vineyards are, being sold over time. So there's fewer and fewer of us at this length. Primarily reds. Where we are here in St. Helena, just a perfect spot for the Bordeaux varietals, primarily Cabernet Sauvignon in our vineyard, but we do grow a little bit of Merlot and Cabernet Franc as blenders for our cab program. We make a varietal Sangiovese and Petit Syrah, but also, I'm a real fan of Sangiovese, so we do a blended wine as well. Sangiovese, Merlot, Cab Sauv, and a little bit of Cab Franc, and we call it Retaggio, and that's a wine that is really made as a tribute to the family. My parents and grandparents my grandparents had the vision and took the risk to be here and buy land, and my parents took it over and made it available to the third generation, really. And so because of them, we're able to do what we do. And so that wine pays tribute to that whole family heritage and legacy. But primarily, the backbone of our wine business is Cabernet Sauvignon. Actually, it's more current because there was no Sangiovese on the property back in the 1800s and even after my grandparents bought the land. But it's a grape that Shannon and I started drinking Chianti and Brunello's, shortly after long time ago. Yeah. And we really loved them, and so really wanted to play around with that varietal, and so we planted our first half acre of Sangiovese in 1996.
Wow.
And just started making a few barrels just to see what it could do. And what we found was Sangiovese grows extremely well where Cabernet grows well. So that's why there's not a lot of Sangiovese grown in Napa Valley, but because Cabernet grows well here and it's king. So
yeah. Well, Sangiovese just warrants a little bit less of a price point, and so it doesn't make sense when you have land that Cabernet grows so beautifully on to plant Sangiovese, and that's the luxury we have in owning the land here, that we can plant the varietals that we really love drinking.
We have two vineyards. We have our estate vineyard, we call our estate vineyard, and then the Crystal Springs vineyard, which we have on a long-term lease, and the two vineyards together are about 32 acres.
Well, Rich was on a tractor a couple hours ago, so he's cleaned up now. But this time of year, especially in spring, the vineyard is exploding. There's a lot of activity and a lot of tractor work that needs to be done.
Well, it's a challenge because we're small enough that it's hard to have a large full-time crew because you can't keep people employed full-time year-round doing that. But it's big enough that it's a lot of work for a very small crew, which we have. So there's times where it means all hands on deck and things need to get done. So it's challenging in that regard because we like to do everything ourselves, and so we do. We don't outsource farming, which means that the busy times are really busy for the small crew that we have. So if we were 100 acres or more, we would have it would be easier to keep a full size crew that could really cover things a little bit better. So that is a challenge. We're kind of like right in the middle of how many acres do we farm, and then doing the wine as well. But it's great because we're able to have full control over our grape source for winemaking. We do interact with them, but not as often as we'd like. I mean, we get busy with all of our own responsibilities, and it's hard to be out on the patio.
So people love to taste downstairs in the patio because it's out amongst the vines. And we try and make a point to always stop in on the patio like you saw me do, and check in with the guests, thank them for being here, ask them if they have any questions. I mean, we realize that that's not something they can get at every winery. And I usually don't even say who I am.
I was going to ask you that question. Can you reveal that?
Not at first,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's a little pretentious sometimes, and so I just want them to make them feel welcome. One of our staff members will usually say, "This is Shannon Salvestrin," and then the guests are like usually pretty surprised that I've stopped in to say hello to them. But ultimately, we're thrilled that they're here. I mean, we realize, to your point, there's so many new wineries, and not even new, but so many wineries in the Napa Valley, and people have a lot of choices. So the fact that they come to the Napa Valley, they might have 2 or 3 days to spend here, and they're choosing to spend an hour or two with us. I mean, we're grateful.
It's really fun to be able to walk people out right to the vines, whether it's flowering or bud push or veraison, or even right about harvest time where we can taste the fruit. I mean, there's not many places you can go and just sit on the patio, taste the wine, and then walk out into the field 2 steps away and see what's happening in the vineyard right there. But the nice thing here, like Shannon said, I mean, right outside the door here is the vineyard, and then on the other side of the door is the cellar. So when guests come here, as we progress in the conversation, take 2 steps out in the vineyard, and we can explain to them what's going on in the vineyard right now. They can see the fruit at whatever stage it's at, and then we can take them into the cellar, and they can see the equipment, where what the barrel room smells like, and maybe even taste some wine if we're doing a barrel tasting that day or something. But it's always fun to go out incognito and sit down and talk to people, and I always get a kick out of, before they know who I am, they're amazed at how much I know about